My wife made my life hell, then got pregnant by my older brother. Now she's asking me for a $100,000 loan for his business. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My life has been a roller coaster of betrayal and heartbreak. I need to get this off my chest. For some context, I, 32M, have been married to Sarah, 30F, for 8 years. We met in college, and I fell head over heels for her. She was beautiful, charming, and always the life of the party. Everyone loved her, especially my family. My parents practically considered her their daughter from day one. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. Sarah had a way of making everything about her. If I had a bad day at work, somehow the conversation would shift to her problems. If I achieved something, she would find a way to diminish it or one-up me. But I was so in love that I ignored these signs. The real problems started about 3 years into our marriage. Sarah began criticizing everything I did, how I dressed, how I talked, even how I breathed. Nothing was ever good enough. She would mock me in front of our friends, making jokes that weren't really jokes. When I confronted her about it, she'd say I was being too sensitive and that I needed to man up. Sarah also controlled our finances with an iron fist. Despite us both having good jobs, I work in IT, she's in marketing, she insisted on managing all our money. She would give me an allowance like I was a child, while she spent lavishly on herself. Designer clothes, expensive spa days, weekend trips with her friends. Nothing was off limits for her. Meanwhile, I had to justify every dollar I spent. Whenever we visited my parents, Sarah was the perfect daughter-in-law, helpful, attentive, and sweet. The moment we got home, she transformed back into the controlling nightmare I lived with daily. My parents never saw this side of her, and if I tried to talk to them about our issues, they'd think I was exaggerating. My older brother Mark, 35M, was the only one who seemed to see through Sarah's facade. He never said anything directly, but I could tell by the way he watched her that he didn't quite trust her. Mark and I have always been close, despite the typical sibling rivalries growing up. He's more outgoing and charismatic than me, but we've always had each other's backs. At least that's what I thought. About a year ago, I started noticing strange behavior from both Sarah and Mark. They texted each other frequently, which wasn't necessarily unusual since they were family. But Sarah would always hide her phone when I came into the room. Mark started making excuses to visit our house when he knew I would be working late. Again, I brushed it off as paranoia. My wife and my brother were just getting along well, right? Wrong. 6 months ago, I came home early from a business trip that had been cut short. It was around midnight, and I expected Sarah to be asleep. Instead, I walked in on her and Mark in our bed, the bed that Sarah and I shared. I stood there frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. When they finally noticed me, Sarah didn't even look ashamed. Mark, at least, had the decency to look guilty. What followed was the worst fight of my life. Sarah admitted that she and Mark had been having an affair for over 8 months. 8 months. She said she had fallen out of love with me years ago, but stayed because it was convenient. Mark tried to apologize, saying it just happened, as if falling into bed with your brother's wife is some kind of accident. I packed a bag and went to stay at a hotel. My parents called me repeatedly, but I couldn't face them yet. I knew Sarah would spin some story making herself the victim. She always did. 2 weeks later, when I finally agreed to meet with Sarah to discuss our divorce, she dropped another bombshell. She was pregnant, and she was certain it was Mark's. I felt like the world was collapsing around me. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Sarah fought me for everything, despite her infidelity. She wanted the house, the car, and half of my savings. Her argument? She had sacrificed her career potential to support me, which was a complete lie. She had always earned slightly more than me and had never once put her career on hold. Thankfully, my lawyer was excellent, and with evidence of her affair, we managed to settle on relatively fair terms. I kept the house and most of my savings, while she got the car and a smaller settlement than she wanted. Through all of this, my relationship with Mark was obviously destroyed. He tried to reach out multiple times, sending texts about how sorry he was and how he wanted to make things right. I blocked his number. My parents were torn. They were angry at Mark and disappointed in Sarah, but they also wanted to be involved in their grandchild's life when it arrived. Fast forward to last month. Sarah gave birth to a baby boy. My parents went to the hospital, but I refused. I've been trying to rebuild my life, focusing on work, reconnecting with friends that Sarah had alienated, and even starting therapy. Yesterday, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, it was Sarah. For the first time since I've known her, she sounded desperate. She explained that she and Mark had been living together, but things weren't working out. Mark had apparently quit his stable job to start a business venture, some kind of tech startup that he was sure would make millions. Their savings were depleted, and they were struggling to make ends meet with a newborn. And then came the request that left me speechless. Sarah asked me if I could loan them $100,000 to invest in Mark's business. She had the audacity to say that once the business took off, they would pay me back with interest. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation hit me like a wave. My cheating ex-wife and backstabbing brother wanted me to fund their future after destroying my life. Sarah got angry at my response and started saying that I was being petty and that this wasn't about us, but about helping family. She reminded me that her son, my nephew, would benefit from this investment. She even suggested that helping them would show that I had moved on and was the bigger person. I told her I needed time to think and hung up. The truth is, I don't need time to think. There's no way I'm giving them a dime. But now my parents are involved. Sarah called them after I refused, and they reached out to me, saying maybe I should consider it. Not for Sarah or Mark, but for my nephew who is innocent in all this. Part of me feels guilty. Not about Sarah or Mark, but about my nephew. He didn't choose his parents, and he doesn't deserve to struggle because of their actions. At the same time, I know that any money I give them won't necessarily benefit him. Knowing Mark's history with money management and Sarah's spending habits, the $100,000 would likely be gone in months with nothing to show for it. I've worked hard for my money, saving diligently despite Sarah's excessive spending during our marriage. The thought of handing over such a large sum to the two people who betrayed me the most seems ludicrous. Am I the jerk for refusing to help them? Should I consider a smaller amount earmarked specifically for my nephew's future? Or should I stand firm and let them figure out their mess on their own? Update 1. Wow, I didn't expect such an overwhelming response. Thank you all for your support and advice. After reading your comments, I decided to stand firm in my refusal. I called Sarah back and told her that I would not be providing any loan, large or small. As expected, she didn't take it well. She called me selfish and heartless, saying I was punishing an innocent child for adult mistakes. I reminded her that neither she nor Mark showed any concern for me when they were betraying me, and that their problems were not my responsibility. I suggested that if Mark's business idea was truly viable, they should seek investors or a bank loan. Sarah then threatened to limit my parents' access to their grandson if I didn't help them. This manipulation tactic confirmed that I was making the right decision. I've informed my parents about Sarah's threat and explained my position. While they're worried about potentially losing access to their grandson, they understand my decision and promised not to pressure me further. My dad actually seemed impressed by my stance, saying he wished he'd been that strong-willed at my age. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. A lot has happened. Mark's business venture failed before it even properly launched. From what I've heard through my parents, he couldn't secure any funding. Shocking, I know, and the little money they had invested was lost. Sarah is now working full-time while Mark watches the baby, which is causing additional strain on their relationship. Last week, Sarah reached out again, but not for money this time. She apologized for how she treated me during our marriage and for the affair with Mark. She said she's realized what she lost and that she made the biggest mistake of her life. I listened politely, but made it clear that there was no chance of us getting back together. Her apology seemed more motivated by her current unhappiness than genuine remorse for hurting me. As for me, I've started dating again. I met someone through a friend at work, and we've been on a few dates. She's kind, respectful, and actually listens when I talk, all qualities I didn't realize I was missing in my marriage with Sarah. My relationship with my parents has improved as well. They've been careful to respect my boundaries regarding discussions about Sarah and Mark, and we've been able to spend time together without that cloud hanging over us. I've also decided to do something positive with the money I almost gave away. I've set up a college fund for my nephew with $20,000. It's in a trust that neither Sarah nor Mark can access, ensuring the money will be used only for his education. While I may never have a relationship with him, I don't want him to suffer for his parents' poor choices. Thank you again for all your support during this difficult time. Your advice helped me stay strong when I was wavering, and I'm grateful for this community. Life isn't perfect, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm moving forward rather than just surviving. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some significant developments. Sarah and Mark's relationship has completely fallen apart. They separated 3 months ago, with Sarah moving back in with her parents, taking the baby with her. From what I've heard through mutual friends, their breakup was as messy as our divorce. Mark apparently cheated on Sarah with a coworker, which is ironic considering how their relationship began. Sarah reached out to me again last month. She was more humble this time, acknowledging that she was experiencing firsthand the pain she had caused me. She didn't ask for money or try to rekindle our relationship. She simply wanted to let me know that she truly regretted her actions and understood the damage she had done. Mark also tried to contact me, sending a long email about how his life has spiraled since everything happened. He lost his job, his relationship, and most of his friends who sided with me after finding out what he did. He ended the email asking if we could ever repair our relationship as brothers. I haven't responded to either of them. I don't feel anger anymore, just a profound sense of disconnect. They're like characters from a story I read long ago, rather than people who were once central to my life. My own life has continued to improve. The woman I mentioned in my last update, Emma, and I are now officially in a relationship. She knows my history and has been incredibly patient and understanding as I work through my trust issues. It's refreshing to be with someone who celebrates my successes instead of competing with them. I've also received a significant promotion at work, which came with a substantial raise. The irony isn't lost on me that if Sarah and Mark had waited a year to ask for that loan, I'd have been in an even better position to help them. Not that I would have. My parents have established their own relationship with their grandson, visiting him at Sarah's parents' house. They're careful not to discuss these visits in detail with me, which I appreciate. They've also reconnected with Mark on a limited basis, which was difficult for me at first, but I understand he's still their son. For my part, I maintained the college fund for my nephew and even added to it after my promotion. I may never have a personal relationship with him, but ensuring he has educational opportunities feels like the right thing to do. I still attend therapy, and my therapist says I've made remarkable progress in processing my trauma and rebuilding my capacity for trust. There are still hard days, but they're fewer and farther between. Looking back on everything that's happened, I realize that while I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone, it forced me to stand up for myself in ways I never had before. In my marriage to Sarah, I had slowly lost pieces of myself, becoming a shadow of who I really was. Now, I'm stronger and more authentic than I've ever been. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. Your support and advice helped me navigate one of the darkest periods of my life, and I'll always be grateful. Final update. Well, this will likely be my last update on this situation as I'm moving on with my life, but I wanted to share one final development. It's been nearly 2 years since my initial post. Emma and I are now engaged, and I couldn't be happier. She's everything Sarah wasn't: supportive, kind, and genuinely interested in my happiness. We're planning a small wedding next spring. As for Sarah and Mark, their lives have taken very different paths. Sarah has actually turned things around somewhat. She's a single mom working hard to provide for her son. She stopped asking me or my parents for money and seems to have accepted the consequences of her actions. We're not friends by any means, but when we occasionally cross paths due to mutual acquaintances, we can be civil. Mark, on the other hand, hit rock bottom before starting to rebuild his life. He moved to another state after failing to find steady work here, where his reputation was tarnished. From what my parents tell me, he's working construction now and sending child support payments when he can. He's made several attempts to reconnect with me, but I've maintained my distance. Some bridges once burned, cannot be rebuilt. My nephew is now a toddler, and while I still don't have a relationship with him, I continue to maintain and contribute to his college fund. My parents show me pictures occasionally, and I can see both Sarah and Mark in his features. It's strange to think this child, who shares my blood but whom I barely know, represents such a pivotal chapter in my life. The $100,000 that Sarah and Mark wanted, I ended up using a portion of it as a down payment on a new house for Emma and me, a fresh start in a home with no painful memories. The rest is invested for our future together. Life has a funny way of working out. Had Sarah not treated me terribly and betrayed me with Mark, I might never have found the strength to stand up for myself or the courage to be vulnerable again with someone like Emma. I might have continued in that unhealthy relationship, never knowing what true partnership and respect felt like. To anyone going through something similar, it gets better. It may not seem like it when you're in the depths of betrayal and heartbreak, but there's a future waiting where this pain is just a distant memory. Stand firm in your boundaries, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to walk away from those who don't value you. Thank you all for being part of this journey with me. Your support helped me through one of the most challenging periods of my life, and I'll always be grateful. Here's to new beginnings.